Good afternoon. This is Jerry Gulke with the weekly perspective on things. Had quite a week this week. Volatility was the word, I guess. Monday we had a downdraft in corn and turned right around, went back up again, and so did beans, and especially wheat went crazy. The one that we've got 1 billion bushels more for the next 2 years is seems to be the one that leads the way, and so we had a retracement on Tuesday. They got a lot of the bulls excited, and then not much follow through, and then of course today, Friday, we dropped again in corn. And what I so often said and written about is that these markets, when they're uncertain like this, they will take away, and well, actually Monday in about an hour, what we gained, what we took almost a week to get. So it's very, very difficult trading these markets, and that's really what we do. We grow our crops and trade them for cash and try to get the best price we can. And of course, there's farmers, I think, and even some of our clients are all over the place. We are pretty heavily hedged, have been for a while, and didn't do much this week. Lifted a little bit of corn and beans ended up higher than where we got out, and corn a little bit lower. But a lot of the traders are just at wit's end trying to figure out what's going on, because at some point in time it seems like fundamentals don't work. We know we got enough corn, we're not going to run out, and it looks like with this planting weather, we're going to get it in, not in record time, but close, and the rains are coming when they're supposed to. We're supposed to get 2 inches of rain, shutting off our planting this afternoon, a couple hours, and quite frankly, I'm glad to see it come, because it's really dry. We're no-tilling into strip tilling, and it's a good thing, because we'd have had to work soybean ground in order to open it up otherwise, because it just got hard. So a lot of producers are done already, and the further north you go, of course, the less that's done. But even in southern Minnesota, some of our people we work with are 100% done already and going to wait till after this rain to start beans. So we're off to a good start, and the market seems to be looking ahead at something. And I think it's you hear all kinds of rumors as to why something happened, and it's usually after the fact. And so you'll hear the market went higher today, based on commodities being a better asset class than maybe equities and so forth. So since this money came into these markets 2 years ago, it's made it a little more difficult to try to suggest that, well, we got too much of something and the price is going to go lower and all that. So, I've even had one trader tell me maybe $9 is the new $6 for soybeans, and anything below that seems to be of some value to somebody out there. And although we took wheat a lot lower than most people thought, and because overabundance, but we've got this money flowing in, and a certainty, it seems like, by a lot of people that inflation is just around the corner, and it's going to happen. And maybe I want my money in some of the commodities, and so we see that going on. And I think as producers, we need to really sit back and look at this and say, there's 2 harvests that we have, and I think one of them, I've always looked at the speculator who probably had never planted a kernel of grain in his life, is looking to buy something that he thinks everybody's going to consume, and doesn't understand that it's a renewable resource, and will take the price of grain higher than what's reasonable, and of course lower than what's reasonable, and that makes an opportunity for those that produce it to sell it, and those that buy it to feed it or make ethanol out of it to lock in lower prices. So he gives us that wide range, and sometimes they baffle us, but right now, it's one of those cases, I think, where why are they so high, and is the market really trying to buy all acres from the U.S. farmer when there's an abundance of soybeans coming out of South America, and is it all about China and so forth? So I think the worst thing we can do is fall asleep at this and not put a pencil to what we're doing. And certainly for me, if I'm going to add more corn or soybeans, soybeans especially, I would want to have some of them priced. That incremental increase in beans that attracts more acres, I think, have to be sold in this $9 above $9 area for November. They could go higher, but they could also go a lot lower too. So anyway, it's been a wild week, and again led by soybeans. Soybeans are up 10 or 15 cents, I believe. Wheat was slightly higher, and actually corn was down 11 cents for the week. So the market's telling us they believe the farmer continued to plant corn at the expense of soybeans. So where are all these acres going to go that weren't planted last year? And I suspect that the higher price in beans, maybe brings more beans in, and maybe we do plant some more corn. So the ultimate thing we may see at the end of June is the fact that we planted more of everything. we could afford to find some more corn acres, and of course those bean acres may not drop because corn acres went higher. So I think that's something to look at, and with the early growing season, there'll be people doing this. You'll hear it on the media saying, well, the last time we did this, 2004, 1994, whatever, we came up with this many acres. We increased the planted acres of total acres so such and such more than we did the previous year. And that may give us an answer to what the market's trying to do, and that's trying to make sure that we have enough acres planted that we can withstand some sort of weather problem this summer because of what we're hearing now, the weakening El Nino, and that may create a situation where forecasters are going to say, well, maybe the best that you're going to hope for is a good average yield and not an above average yield. And of course, a trend line yield would be, someone would argue, would be something less than the 163, maybe down around 160 bushels an acre this year, 159. That would tighten things up a little bit. And also in soybeans, that weakening of El Nino supposedly portends to maybe a not so good August time frame. And we've got, we've proven we can switch soybean yields by 2 or 3 bushels some years, and 2 or 3 bushels would change things quite a bit. So we're getting it in the ground, and now we've got to plant it. And but we are going to continue to see these wild days where in corn, I don't know if you could ask for better weather than we've had, and we haven't got a good start to planting soybeans yet, so we'll see how that goes. The other thing that I've kind of been watching is, China, about a month ago, a gentleman I know that actually works for John Deere was over there and came back and said, China's got a problem they're concerned about. Most of the weather guys said, yeah, but where it's dry, they don't grow crops anyway. Well, that's like saying, gosh, it's really dry in Nevada and Utah, but what if this drought moves east? And that's what the Chinese are concerned about, and apparently it's moved somewhat. So that's a concern, and we need to watch that pretty closely because they're not afraid to buy something from, a Chinese gentleman once told me that we buy what's cheap and we sell what's expensive, and right now wheat is very cheap. You can feed it, and you can even make ethanol out of it probably, and cheaper than you could corn or some other commodity. And also, there's a watch out now for Europe. Going to get warm, going to get dry. We'll need to watch that next week and the week after. France grows a lot of wheat, so we've been preaching this thing about so much wheat in the United States and so much in the world, but I suspect that we look back at this and we'll say we probably have seen the highest global stocks in wheat this past year than we're going to see maybe in the next 2 or 3, because the market is begging us, don't do this again, don't plant any more wheat, and don't do the job on wheat like you did in corn a few years ago and grow record crops. So we'll see how it goes, and we're not the only people that grow grain in the world, and we need to start watching some of these other areas. But for now, this is you couldn't ask for a better spring, and hopefully a safe one. So have a good weekend. You have some time to watch TV, I guess, because we're supposed to get a couple inches of rain here, and then clear again. And but I think we'll get everything in a timely fashion unless suddenly we turn wet like we did last year. But for now, looks pretty good. And as I speak, it's starting to sprinkle. So got to finish this field and get on with life. So we'll look at grains again next week. And of course, if you're looking, you want to look at a chart. July soybeans rallied up, believe it or not, back to almost to the place where they were trading before the big bearish crop report we had on January 12th. So if you look at a chart and see where we were January 11th, and then the big surprise and the big gap lower, we've rallied into that gap area in beans. Could not close that gap twice. Technically, that's very negative. If we close that gap, then it says you could go a lot higher. I, for the life of me, don't know why you would want soybeans or why beans would be worth more today than they were January 11th, before we knew we had a good crop in Brazil, and we knew that we found another 20 or 30 million bushels of beans, and I guess that would get my attention. But right now, it looks like we tried to get there and couldn't do it. Corn, of course, was a long way from doing that. So we'll see how beans react, and it would take a monumental effort by Argentina to shut off beans, I would think. And we're nearing that level now where a greater percentage of soybeans have been harvested. We know the crop is coming in. You can't kill it anymore. So now we may find the South Americans more aggressive in selling their soybeans at these prices. So with that, have a good weekend, and hope everything's going well.